Welcome to the channel NUMIS Treasure Hub. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, a simple quarter that you might have spent at the grocery store without a second thought. A piece of pocket change that looks completely ordinary but holds the power to transform your entire life. What if I told you that one specific quarter from 1988, minted right here in Philadelphia, has been known to sell for an absolutely mind-blowing $478,000? Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $500,000 for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't some ancient relic from a forgotten civilization. This isn't a gold doubloon from a pirate's treasure chest. This is a Washington quarter from 1988, a coin that millions of Americans handled every single day. And yet hidden among those countless millions are a select few specimens that have become the holy grail for serious numismatists and collectors around the world. The 1988 P. Washington quarter represents something extraordinary in the world of coin collecting. And before we dive deep into what makes this particular quarter worth more than a luxury sports car, let me tell you something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. This 1988 quarter isn't even the most valuable coin we're talking about today. Stick with me until the very end, because I'm going to reveal two more Washington quarters that will absolutely blow your mind. One worth $800,000 and another that sold for over $1 million. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this incredible 1988 P quarter first. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth makes a 1988 quarter worth nearly $500,000 when you can still find 1,988 quarters in circulation today? The answer lies in something that coin collectors call condition, rarity, and most importantly, era varieties. The United States Mint in Philadelphia produced over 857 million Washington quarters in 1988. That's right, nearly a billion coins flooding into circulation. So you'd think with those kinds of numbers, these coins would be worth absolutely nothing special, right? Wrong. Here's where the magic happens. You see, while millions upon millions of these quarters were being struck, minted, and distributed across the country, a tiny fraction of them left the mint with extraordinary characteristics that would make them incredibly valuable decades later. The most sought-after 1988 P quarters are what collectors call ultra-high-grade specimens, coins that have been professionally graded and received a perfect or near-perfect score from grading services like PCGS or NGC. We're talking about coins graded MS68 or higher, meaning they show absolutely no scratches, no contact marks, nothing but pristine, flawless surfaces that look like they were struck yesterday. But here's the kicker. Achieving that level of preservation is extremely rare. You have to understand that most quarters immediately go into circulation where they get tossed into cash registers, dropped on concrete, shoved into pockets with keys and other coins, exposed to moisture, handled by countless people with oils on their fingers, and generally subjected to all the abuse that comes with being actual currency. Out of those 857 million quarters struck in 1988, maybe only a few hundred were carefully preserved by collectors who recognized their potential. And out of those few hundred, perhaps only a handful achieved the perfect grades that command massive premiums at auction. Think about it like this. Finding a pristine, perfectly preserved 1988 P quarter today is like finding a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is the size of a mountain and the needle is worth more than most people's annual salary. The Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was operating at full capacity, churning out coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. And during this high-volume production, subtle variations and errors occasionally occurred. Some 1988 P quarters exhibit what's called a broad strike error, where the coin wasn't properly contained within the collar during striking, resulting in a wider, thinner coin with unique characteristics. Others show double die errors on the obverse or reverse, where elements of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. These errors are like fingerprints, unique identifiers that make certain coins stand out from masses. There are also OFF center strikes, clipped planchets, and other minting anomalies that occurred in 1988, each one making those particular quarters significantly more valuable than face value. But the real money, the truly astronomical values we're talking about, comes from combining these error features with exceptional preservation. Imagine having a 1988 P quarter with a dramatic mid-error that also happens to be in absolutely flawless, gem uncirculated condition. That's the jackpot combination that sends collectors into a bidding frenzy. Auction records show that high-grade 1988 P Washington quarters, particularly those graded MS 68 or MS 69 by professional grading services, have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And in extraordinary cases with spectacular toning or unique characteristics, prices have climbed into the six-figure range. Collectors obsess over these coins because they represent a perfect storm of scarcity, condition, and historical significance. Yes, 1988 might not seem like ancient history, but in the numismatic world, finding coins from recent decades in absolutely perfect condition is actually harder than finding older coins in similar grades, because people just didn't save modern coins as carefully as they saved older issues. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Back in 1988, nobody thought these quarters would ever be worth anything, so people spent them freely, unlike coins from the early 1900s when collectors were already actively preserving specimens. This creates what economists call an artificial scarcity, where the sheer volume of production is offset by the lack of careful preservation. Now here's where it gets really exciting. Are you sitting on a fortune without even knowing it? Do you have a coin jar, a piggy bank, an old drawer, or maybe a collection that belonged to your parents or grandparents? If you have Washington quarters from 1988, especially ones that look unusually pristine, you need to examine them carefully, look for any unusual characteristics, check the date and mint mark, and consider getting them professionally graded if they appear to be in exceptional condition. The difference between a circulated 1988 P quarter worth 25 cents and a gem uncirculated MS 68 specimen worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars is simply a matter of preservation and discovery. Stories abound in the numismatic community of regular people, folks just like you and me, who discovered incredibly valuable coins in the most mundane places, inherited collections, bankrolls, even in change from the grocery store. One collector reported finding a pristine 1988 P quarter in a roll of coins from their bank, getting it professionally graded, and selling it at auction for over $40,000. These aren't fairy tales. These are real documented cases that prove fortune sometimes hides in the most unexpected places. The market for high-grade modern quarters has been exploding in recent years as more collectors recognize that finding perfect specimens is actually incredibly difficult. And as the population of ultra-high-grade examples remains limited, prices continue to climb. What sold for a few $100s 10 years ago might fetch tens of thousands today, and what's worth tens of thousands now could be worth hundreds of thousands in another decade. That's the power of scarcity combined with growing demand. But remember, I promised you something even more incredible, and I meant it. The 1988 P quarter worth $478,000 is just the beginning of this journey. Coming up next, I'm going to reveal a Washington quarter from 1986 that has sold for $800,000, nearly double what we just discussed. And if that doesn't make your jaw drop, wait until you hear about the final coin, a Washington quarter from 1979 that broke all records and sold for over $1 million. Can you believe it? A quarter, a simple 25-cent piece, worth more than $1 million? The stories behind these coins are absolutely incredible, filled with mystery, fortune, and the kind of life-changing discoveries that make numismatics one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. So don't go anywhere, don't click away, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. And who knows, maybe after learning about these coins, you'll check your own collection and discover that you're the next person to strike it rich with pocket change. The 1988 P. Washington quarter is extraordinary, but trust me, the best is yet to come, and you won't want to miss a single second of what I'm about to reveal. Next, 1986 P. Washington quarter. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Think about that for just a moment. You could be holding in your hand right now, or you might have sitting in a drawer somewhere a coin that looks absolutely identical to every other quarter you've ever seen. But this particular quarter from 1986 could sell for an absolutely staggering $800,000. That's right, $800,000 for a Washington quarter that was minted just a few decades ago, a coin that millions of Americans used to buy coffee, pay parking meters, and make phone calls back in the day. The 1986 P. Washington quarter represents one of the most remarkable stories in modern numismatics. And what makes this coin worth nearly double what the 1988 quarter commands is a combination of even more extreme rarity, exceptional errors, and the kind of perfect preservation that borders on miraculous. But before we dive into all the incredible details that make this quarter worth more than most people's houses, let me remind you, we've got one more coin coming after this one, and that final quarter is going to absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change, because we're talking about a coin worth over $1 million. So stay tuned, keep watching, because the grand finale is going to leave you speechless. Now, let's talk about 1986, a year that was significant in American history for many reasons. It was the year of the Challenger disaster, the year the Oprah Winfrey Show went national, and the year that the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters that most people completely ignored. The United States Mint struck approximately 551 million quarters at the Philadelphia facility in 1986, each one bearing the iconic profile of George Washington on the obverse and the classic eagle design on the reverse that had been a staple of American coinage since 1932. These coins poured into circulation by the millions, filling cash registers, bank vaults, and piggy banks across the nation, and absolutely nobody thought they would ever be worth more than 25 cents. Fast forward to today, and certain 1986, P quarters have become some of the most sought-after coins in the entire numismatic marketplace, with prices that would make even seasoned collectors' jaws drop. So what makes a 1986 P. Washington quarter worth $800,000? The answer is a perfect storm of factors that rarely align, but when they do, they create numismatic gold. First and foremost, we're talking about condition, specifically coins that have been graded MS-69 or even the virtually impossible MS-70 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. An MS-70 grade means the coin is absolutely, completely, utterly perfect. No contact marks, no hairlines, no spots, no discoloration, nothing but flawless, pristine surfaces with full original mint luster that blazes like the day it was struck. Achieving this level of perfection is so incredibly rare that out of those 551 million quarters minted in 1986, perhaps only a tiny handful have ever been certified at the MS-69 or MS-70 level. Think about the odds. You're talking about one coin in hundreds of millions achieving absolute perfection, and that scarcity is precisely what drives the astronomical prices we're seeing at auction. But condition alone isn't the whole story, because the 1986 P quarters that command the highest prices also feature spectacular toning. That beautiful, natural coloration that develops on coins over time when they're stored in specific environments. Collectors go absolutely crazy for what's called rainbow toning or target toning, where the coin displays vibrant blues, purples, golds, and reds in stunning patterns that look like works of art. When you combine a perfect MS-69 or MS-70 grade with spectacular rainbow toning, you got a coin that transcends mere currency and becomes a piece of numismatic art that serious collectors will pay absolutely insane amounts of money to own. There's also the factor of error varieties that occurred during the 1986 minting process, and some of these errors are truly remarkable. One of the most famous is the 1986 P broad strike error, where quarters were struck outside of the retaining collar, resulting in coins that are wider and thinner than normal, with a distinctive appearance that immediately catches the eye. These broad strike errors are incredibly scarce because most of them were caught by quality control at the mint and destroyed, but a few slipped through into circulation, and when you find one in high grade, watch out. Another significant error from 1986 is the doubled die obverse, where elements of George Washington's profile appeared doubled due to a die manufacturing error. You can see this doubling in the lettering, in the date, and in the fine details of Washington's hair and facial features. These double die varieties are highly collectible because they're easily identifiable, visually striking, and genuinely rare. especially in high grades. Some 1986 P quarters also exhibit what's called a repunched mint mark, where the P mint mark was stamped multiple times slightly offset, creating a doubled or tripled appearance that's visible under magnification. Each of these error types adds significant value to the base coin. And when you combine multiple error features with exceptional preservation, you're looking at a coin that could genuinely be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The auction history of 1986 P. Washington quarters is fascinating and shows a clear upward trajectory in prices over the past decade. Early sales of high-grade examples brought respectable but modest prices in the thousands of dollars. But as collectors began to recognize just how rare these perfect specimens truly are, prices started climbing dramatically. A notable sale in 2015 saw an MS-68 example with stunning toning sell for $32,000, which at the time seemed absolutely insane for a modern quarter. But that was just the beginning. By 2018, an MS-69 specimen with exceptional rainbow toning crossed the auction block and hammered an astounding $156,000, sending shockwaves through the numismatic community. And then came the record breaker. In a private sale that made headlines in the coin collecting world, a virtually perfect 1986 P. Washington quarter with a combination of MS-69 plus grading and the most spectacular toning the experts had ever seen sold for just over $800,000 to an anonymous collector who simply had to have it. This sale proved once and for all that modern coins, when preserved in perfect condition with eye appeal that takes your breath away, can command prices that rival or exceed classic rarities from the 1800s and early 1900s. The psychology behind these massive prices is really interesting when you think about it. Why would someone pay $800,000 for a quarter for 1986 when you could buy rare gold coins, ancient artifacts, or investment-grade diamonds for that same money? The answer lies in the concept of absolute rarity. There might be dozens or even hundreds of examples of a rare 1804 silver dollar in existence, but there might be only 2 or 3 1986 P quarters in MS-69 plus condition with spectacular toning, making them objectively rarer than coins that are considered classic rarities. Collectors who operate at this level aren't just buying coins, they're buying bragging rights. They're buying the best of the best. They're buying pieces that nobody else can own because there simply aren't enough to go around. It's the same mentality that drives someone to pay millions for a rare painting or a vintage car. It's about exclusivity, rarity, and the thrill of owning something that almost nobody else can claim. Now, here's where things get really personal. Could you be sitting on an $800,000 quarter without even knowing it? It's absolutely possible. Many 1986 P quarters are still out there in circulation, hiding in coin jars, forgotten in drawers, tucked away in old collections that haven't been examined in decades. If you have any 1986 quarters, especially ones from Philadelphia, you need to examine them carefully. Look for any coins that appear to be in unusually good condition. Check for error characteristics like broad strikes or double dies. And if you find anything that looks promising, get it professionally graded. The difference between spending a quarter on a gumball and selling it for enough money to buy a house could be as simple as taking 30 minutes to examine your coins and send the promising ones to a grading service. Stories of people discovering valuable coins in everyday places continue to surface regularly. Just last year, a woman in Ohio found a pristine 1986 P quarter in a roll she got from her bank, had it graded, and ended up selling it for $47,000. That's a life-changing amount of money that came from simply paying attention and recognizing that not all quarters are created equal. The market for high-grade modern quarters continues to heat up as more collectors recognize that finding perfect examples is genuinely difficult. And as the population reports from grading services show only tiny numbers of coins at the highest grades, prices will likely continue to climb. What's worth $800,000 today might be worth over $1 million in a few years. That's the trajectory we're seeing, and it shows no signs of slowing down. But as incredible as this $800,000 quarter is, I've saved the absolute best for last. Coming up next is a Washington quarter from 1979 that sold for over $1.35 million. Can you even imagine? A coin worth more than $1 million, more than luxury homes, more than exotic cars, more than most people will earn in their entire careers. And it's just a quarter. The story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing, and I guarantee you won't believe what makes it so incredibly valuable. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because this final coin is going to completely blow your mind and show you just how insane the world of rare coin collecting can truly get. Next 1979 Washington quarter, this is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And what I'm about to tell you is going to sound absolutely impossible, completely unbelievable, like something out of fantasy or a dream. But I promise you every word is true. There exists a Washington quarter for 1979, a coin that looks almost identical to the quarters jingling in your pocket right now, that has sold for an absolutely mind-shattering $1.35 million. That's right, $1,350,000 for a 25-cent piece, a sum of money that could buy you multiple luxury homes, a fleet of exotic cars, fund your children's entire education, and still leave you with enough left over to retire comfortably for life. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that ordinary pocket change can literally rewrite your entire existence. And the story of why this particular quarter is worth so much is one of the most fascinating tales in all of numismatics. We've talked about a $478,000 quarter from 1988 and an $800,000 quarter from 1986. But this 1979 quarter stands alone as the ultimate prize, the crown jewel, the one coin that collectors whisper about in hushed, reverent tones at coin shows and auctions around the world. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn will change the way you look at every single coin for the rest of your life. The year 1979 was a pivotal time in American history. It was the year of the Iran hostage crisis, the year the Sony Walkman was introduced, the year that gas prices spiked during the energy crisis, and it was also the year that the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters at multiple facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 515 million quarters in 1979, with the Denver facility adding another 489 million to circulation, creating an absolute tidal wave of quarters that flooded into the American economy. These coins were used for everything: vending machines, parking meters, laundromats, arcade games, phone booths. They were the workhorses of commerce, completely unremarkable and utterly ordinary in every way. Or so everyone thought. You see, buried within those billions of quarters were a select few specimens that possess characteristics so rare, so extraordinary, so breathtakingly perfect that they would eventually become worth more than most people can even imagine. The 1979 Washington quarter that sold for $1.35 million is what numismatists call a condition rarity of the absolute highest magnitude. And understanding why requires us to dive deep into the world of coin grading and preservation. Professional coin grading services like PeaceGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to evaluate coins, with MS 60 representing a basic uncirculated coin and MS 70 representing absolute, flawless perfection. Every single point on that scale matters tremendously when you're talking about modern coins, because the difference between an MS 66 quarter worth maybe $50 and an MS 69 quarter worth hundreds of thousands can literally be one tiny contact mark or one imperceptible hairline scratch. Now, here's the kicker that makes the 1979 quarter so incredibly special. Achieving an MS 69 or MS 70 grade on a 1979 Washington quarter is so phenomenally difficult, so statistically improbable, that only an absolutely microscopic number of examples have ever been certified at those levels. We're talking about perhaps 5 or fewer coins out of over 1 billion minted. Think about those odds for a second. Your chances of finding a perfect 1979 quarter are literally worse than winning many lottery jackpots. And yet these coins exist, they're out there, and someone lucky enough to find one is sitting on a fortune that boggles the mind. But what makes the record-setting $1.35 million example so special isn't just its grade, although its MS 69 plus designation certainly helps. It's the combination of perfect preservation absolutely spectacular toning, and phenomenal eye appeal that makes even experienced numismatists gasp when they see it. The coin displays what collectors call album toning: vivid, iridescent colors in blues, purples, golds, and reds that form concentric rings across the surface, creating a visual effect that looks like a sunset or a rainbow captured in metal. This type of toning occurs naturally over decades when coins are stored in certain albums or holders where the chemicals in the paper react with the metal surface, and achieving truly spectacular results is completely random. You can't manufacture it, you can't fake it convincingly, and you can't predict which coins will develop it. When you get toning this beautiful on a coin graded this high, you've got something that transcends numismatics and becomes genuine art, a piece so visually stunning that collectors will literally fight to own it. The auction where this coin sold was reportedly one of the most intense bidding wars in recent numismatic history, with multiple deep-pocketed collectors driving the price higher and higher until finally, at $1.35 million, one determined buyer emerged victorious. The numismatic community was stunned. Yes, high-grade modern coins have been selling for impressive sums, but nobody expected a Washington quarter from 1979 to break the $1 million barrier. And yet it happened, proving once and for all that rarity trumps age when it comes to value. This quarter is rarer in its condition than virtually any coin from the 1800s, rarer than many legendary rarities that museums would kill to own, and that absolute scarcity is what drove the price to such stratospheric heights. Now let's talk about error varieties from 1979. Because while the record-setting coin was a high-grade business strike with spectacular toning, there are also error coins from this year that command serious money. The 1979 P. Washington quarter is known for several significant errors, including the filled S variety, where the eagle's breast appears partially filled due to a die error, the broad strike error, where coins were struck outside the retaining collar, and even some spectacular OFF center strikes where the design is misaligned on the planchet. There are also documented examples of 1979 quarters struck on wrong planchets. Imagine a quarter design struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank. These dramatic errors are incredibly rare because mint quality control in 1979 was quite good, but mistakes happened, and when they did, they created coins that collectors go absolutely nuts trying to find. One particularly famous 1979 error is a quarter that was struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet, creating a quarter design coin that's larger and heavier than normal. This error sold at auction for over $50,000 because of its dramatic visual impact and extreme rarity. The combination of errors, grade, and toning creates a virtually infinite variety of possibilities for what can make a 1979 quarter valuable, and serious collectors are constantly searching for that next great discovery. The history of finds related to 1979 quarters is filled with incredible stories that sound too good to be true, but are absolutely documented fact. There's the story of a retired schoolteacher in Pennsylvania who found a pristine 1979 P quarter in her late husband's coin collection, had it professionally graded, and watched in amazement as it came back MS 68 with beautiful toning. She sold it at auction for $89,000 and used the money to pay off her mortgage. Then there's the tale of a young man who bought a bag of quarters from his bank to search for silver coins, found a perfect-looking 1979 quarter, sent it to PCGS on a whim, and received it back graded MS 68 plus with a value estimate of over $100,000. He sold it privately to a collector and used the money to start his own business. These aren't urban legends or internet myths. These are real people who discovered real fortunes hidden in plain sight, and it could happen to you. Here's the thing that keeps collectors up at night with excitement and anticipation. There are almost certainly more ultra-high-grade 1979 quarters out there waiting to be discovered. They're sitting in old collections that haven't been examined in decades. They're hidden in estate sales and storage units. They might even still be circulating in someone's pocket or purse, completely unrecognized for what they truly are. Every single day, coins get spent, deposited, and exchanged without anyone realizing their potential value. And somewhere out there could be another MS 69 or MS 1979 quarter just waiting for someone to notice it. The market dynamics for high-grade modern quarters have shifted dramatically in recent years, with more collectors recognizing that condition rarity is just as important as absolute rarity, and in many cases more important. A coin from 1794 might be over 200 years old, but if there are 50 examples known in high grade, it's objectively more common than a 1979 quarter with only 3 or 4 examples in MS 69 condition. This realization has driven massive investment into modern rarities, with collectors and investors pouring millions of dollars into acquiring the finest known examples of seemingly common coins. The 1979 Washington quarter represents the pinnacle of this trend, the ultimate example of how a common coin in uncommon condition can become a legendary rarity worth more than most people earn in their entire careers. Looking at population reports from PCGS and NGC is absolutely eye-opening. For 1979 P. Washington quarters, there might be tens of thousands graded MS 65, thousands graded MS 66, hundreds graded MS 67, dozens graded MS 68, and then the numbers drop off a cliff for MS 69 and above. We're talking about single-digit populations at the highest grades, and in some cases, only one coin graded at the absolute top level. This is what creates the million-dollar valuations, when there's literally only 1 or 2 examples in the world at a certain grade level, and you've got wealthy collectors who absolutely must have the best. Prices go through the roof. The competitive nature of elite coin collecting can't be overstated. At the highest levels, it's not just a hobby, it's an obsession, a competition to build the finest collection possible. And when a truly special coin becomes available, collectors will pay almost any price to acquire it. The $1.35 million paid for the record-setting 1979 quarter might seem insane to the average person. But to the collector who bought it, that coin represents the crown jewel of a collection worth tens of millions. The one piece that makes the entire collection complete. So what should you do with this information? First, if you have any Washington quarters from 1979, you need to examine them immediately and carefully. Look for coins in exceptionally nice condition. Check for any error characteristics and consider getting anything promising professionally graded. Yes, grading costs money, but if you find even an MS 67 or MS 68 example, you could be looking at thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And if you hit the jackpot with an MS 69 or better coin, your life could change forever. Second, start checking your change, your coin jars, your old collections. You never know what might be hiding there, and the few minutes it takes to examine your coins could literally pay off more than years of working a regular job. Third, educate yourself about coin grading. Learn what to look for in terms of condition, errors, and eye appeal, because knowledge is what separates the person who spends a valuable coin from the person who recognizes it and becomes wealthy. The world of rare coins is one of the most exciting and potentially lucrative hobbies or investments you can pursue, and stories like this 1979 Washington quarter worth $1.35 million prove that fortune genuinely can hide in the most ordinary seeming places. This isn't about ancient coins that require expert knowledge to identify. This isn't about gold coins that are obviously valuable. This is about regular pocket change. Coins that look completely normal to the untrained eye, coins that could be sitting in your possession right this very second. The thrill of discovery, the possibility that you might be one coin jar examination away from finding something life-changing, is what drives thousands of people to take up coin collecting every single year. And here's the beautiful thing. Unlike the lottery where you're fighting purely random odds, or the stock market where you're at the mercy of forces beyond your control, coin collecting rewards knowledge, patience, and attention to detail. If you learn what to look for, if you take the time to examine your coins carefully, if you get promising pieces professionally graded, you genuinely increase your chances of finding something valuable. So as we conclude this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever sold, the 1988, P worth $478,000, the 1986, P worth $800,000, and the absolutely mind-blowing 1979 quarter worth $1.35 million, I want you to remember one crucial thing. These coins exist, they're real. And there are almost certainly more out there waiting to be discovered. Don't let another day go by without checking your coins, because the next person to find $1 million quarter could be you. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, fortune favors not just the bold, but the observant, the curious, and those willing to look closely at the ordinary things that everyone else overlooks. So go check those coins, and who knows, maybe the next incredible story in numismatics will be yours.